Okay, so my name is Jelle and I'm from Datakoppelaars. Non-Dutch speakers, Datakoppelaars roughly translates to data couplers or integrators or whatever. Yeah, and so the past few years we've built, I don't know the exact number because I don't have a Bram system yet, but I guess 100 plus integrations with n8n. And first of all, I'd like to acknowledge that I don't want to act like we know everything about n8n or anything. I just like to present some, well, I think interesting use cases of n8n, some AI implementation and some other stuff, and especially the stuff where we found challenges. Yeah, because the stuff that's really easy, I can show you a lot of integrations that were done in 2 hours or something, but I guess for a certain audience that is not as interesting. So yeah, like Bart mentioned, we integrate with the bigger Dutch accountancy software systems such as AVAS and Exact and the like. So that's one project I'd like to demo. I have another case where we work with, well, in our perspective, larger data sets. Perhaps for one of you guys, this tiny data set, but let's see. And I have a project that is longing to be migrated to n8n, but so far I haven't been able to do it, so maybe one of you guys afterwards can help me discover how to fix this issue, yeah? Oh yeah, and for the people that didn't get it, in Dutch, a monkey is called an aap, an apie. So, okay, so we have this first use case where we connect for one of our clients that is actually in the, let's say, legal industry, roughly, yeah? That's all I'm going to say about this client, where we applied AI to do something that would usually take a lot of effort, and that is that they have like legal documents. They are actually saved in a PDF file in AVAS, which is rather unfortunate because then you've got to get through all these steps to get the actual textual content. And what they usually do is they want to present these legal documents in a readable format on their website that is understandable for people that are definitely not like legal professionals. Yeah, so that usually takes a professional text writer, copywriter, whatever, and she usually makes, so she gets as long as documents, and she will make fairly easable, readable summaries of these documents. And this client asked us like, hey, could that be done in a modern and easier and more scalable way? And so what we did is, so we get all this data from AVAS. I've blurred it out here, but it's just a request node getting the data from AVAS. So we get the files and extract the text from the files. And what we found is that even though the latest OpenAI models are quite intelligent, we tend to treat them as I would say, junior employee. Yeah, because if you give them like 10 instructions at once, they're maybe gonna pick up randomly 2 or 3 of these things, and the rest they're gonna drop and forget and not do. So OpenAI does this as well. And so what we do here is we inject current summaries that are great actually. So really good summaries of these legal documents. And we instruct the AI to say like, okay, we need a summary just like this. But this is now the legal document and we want you to make it just like this. But we found out that if you do this, they sometimes forget to include some of the more important subjects. They use difficult to understand words, all sorts of issues. So what we did is in Siri, we added some different steps, so some different nodes, where each AI we consider as a new junior employee that gets his own little task. So in this case, this is called samenvatting corrigeren, so to correct the summary. And we instruct the AI to remove some difficult to understand words. So we have like a forbidden words list, because they are used quite often in these legal documents, but probably none of us could really understand what it means. And so we have a specific instruction to say, like, don't do this, because we found out that if you let the AI summarize the document and say, and don't do this, well, it picks one of those two and not both. And then, in the end, I've kind of figured out, like, okay, so maybe it should be reviewed, and it should get a score based on, is it readable, and are all the relevant facts included? And we do this twice because, well, why not? It's cheap. So we let the AI calculate a score of the summary, and it only continues in this code node if the relevancy score is high enough. And what is high enough? I don't know. We just did a lot of runs and discussed with the client. And basically, it never happens that the AI gives us a summary that doesn't make any sense at all. So that's great news. And eventually, we do this execute workflow thing where we, because this client does not want automated summaries at all on their website. So what we do is we send it back to AFAS in a system that's called Insight. Maybe some of you heard about it. And in this case, there's a part where a human needs to either approve or disapprove the suggested summary. So, yeah, that's what I thought was one fairly interesting case. You guys like to continue to the next case, or do you perhaps have questions on this particular example? You first, yeah?
Yeah, okay. What about data privacy? So you're sending data to OpenAI.
Yeah.
What about the names and so on?
That's a great question. Okay, so the question is for the online readers is, what about data privacy? Because you send all sorts of stuff to OpenAI. Is that okay? It's not okay. But the documents we send are already anonymized. Okay. Yeah. So these documents, the actual PDFs we are talking about, they are also put on the website. But to be fair, for a normal human being, they're not readable. So there is no sensitive data being sent to OpenAI in any case.
Well, OpenAI will not train on API data.
No, they won't, but it's still not okay to send like, because in this case, this legal company, they handle complaints about your GP. Yeah? So it's a great question because the data is really sensitive. It's about complaining that your doctor didn't handle you appropriately. So you definitely don't want any names whatsoever. Yeah, great question.
Question 1B.
Oh, okay. Yes, question 1B, please do so.
So that you have configured 3 different agents?
No, in this case, it's not an agent. It's just the regular OpenAI node.
Okay, so just a check completion, you're asking something, getting an answer, and then doing another check completion.
Yeah.
To be sure that...
So in a sense, this is not as intelligent as an agent, but it is, in my experience, more controllable.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, yeah.
2 questions. The more important one is for this get workflow node and the human task that's behind it, what are the mechanics of this? I know in n8n you can use a wait node to assign a task and start again with a webhook, but you're not doing that here. You're sending it to another system.
Yeah.
And it's calling back somehow.
Oh, yeah. The system we send it into, that is an AFAS product. And AFAS has, they have 2 products. One is called Outside, that's to build a website. And they have a system that's called Inside, and that is to be used internally in your company. Yeah, you can't make this up. But and so it's basically, let's say, it's mostly used as a sort of CRM geared application, yeah? So what we do is we send a request, so there's no magic going on. It's just a request where we do a post and we send this textual data, and the appropriate person will get, they call it in their bakje, so in their bucket. They get an item in their bucket that shows up that needs reviewing, and they have like buttons to either approve or disapprove or whatever.
And then from inside AFAS, it will be moved from inside to outside.
No, actually, if you want to get technical about it, AFAS main database system is Profit. And Profit stores all the data. So both outside and inside, all the data lives inside of Profit.
Yeah, but if you click that button, AFAS will move it to be publicly displayed instead of...
I'm afraid that AFAS is not able to do this, so we do this with another n8n automation, yeah?
That was my question, yeah.
Yes, we do this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to understand. Are you waiting for some external event in that orange colored
Oh,
node? Or
no.
It doesn't sound.
No. We just do a post request, that's it.
Cool. Second question.
Yeah.
Which may be out of scope for what we have. The steps 3 through 5 there, where you have a sort of a linear progression of AI.
Yeah.
How do you know that it's 3 steps and not 33 steps? Why don't you dynamically generate sub-workflows based on like a planning AI that says we need 10 steps for this thing or 3 steps for that thing? How do you hard code the steps here?
Okay, the reason, I mean, first of all, this sounds super interesting and fairly genius.
I had 2 beers, so that's
Yeah, they are 0%, right? But no. So the question is, why do we statically set these serialized steps of AI? And well, my first reply is, well, that's a great idea, but because this does the job. Yeah. So first of all, when we only did step 3, the results were very promising, but they kept saying like, okay, yeah, but you keep on using these and these words and these sentences, and we don't want that. So I tried to inject them in the first step, and it didn't work, because then all sorts of facts were missing. And so I just added stuff until it worked, and now it works consistently, and they're happy. So that's the reason. Yeah, go ahead.
Also able to train the AI with the feedback from the user?
Okay, are we able to train the AI? I would almost say that's a question out of this scope, because it involves knowledge about LLMs. And as a basic answer, I could say that if you use OpenAI in the way we are using it right here, the LLM stays the way it is. Yeah, so there are ways to work around this. I have one use case that sort of does this in a way, and there are other ways that I'm not as well educated on, but here, no. There's no...
Actually, you are, because you're injecting the previous summaries that you have manually selected and curated to be the correct style of summary, and that's called in-context learning. So that's actually what is happening there. It's also some sort of training, but it's a prompting technique, basically.
And feedback from the users, right? So,
if I could compare it with like the question where they were wondering about why don't you use an agent? In this case, in my experience, I would compare it to a zero-shot agent, where you basically hope for that if you do this one injection of instruction, like you got to do it like this, then it will probably listen, and turns out it works.
The thing is that you need to keep in mind the limitation of 128k tokens which you can inject and not more. So if you have really a big document with a lot of pages, then it might be...
That is correct, but these documents aren't that long.
What about error handling, sorry?
Error handling, yeah, sure.
What if the first agent or the first step to OpenAI gives an error?
Okay, so first of all, currently this company has around 350 of these documents. So to process them all by batch is not that big a deal. Mm-hmm. But it's really important, and it's really quite, because there are a lot of people involved, you know, all sorts of, I'm not really familiar with the English terms for it, but anyway, the volume is not as big, and so this will be actually triggered from within a custom web application that we built. So this is basically our thing we do because it makes sense with the Datakoppelaars, yeah? But we also build web applications, so we will use this as a sort of API endpoint from a web application. So that's how it works. So if it errors, the user will see an error. And will probably call us. Like, what's going on? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Have you tried other LLMs besides besides GPTs from OpenAI, for example?
Recently, oh yeah, okay. So the question is, have you tried other LLMs? And recently, I've been trying Claude 3.5, and I tend to think that if there are a lot of technical details involved, sometimes Claude 3.5 does a better job, but so far this has been good.
Yeah, okay, cool.
But yes, it's relevant, and for instance, for meeting summaries and stuff like that, I think Claude works better. But I'm also confident that OpenAI will fight back. Okay, so
Given the time,
yeah,
if you could take like another 5 minutes max. then
Sure.
We run over time a little bit, but I do want to hear a bit more.
cool. Okay, so I think this is an interesting thing to discuss, like, but how about working with, in our perception, larger data sets with n8n? So I have 2 slides, let's get through them. So basically, here we have a challenge where we get this request like, okay, we got 80,000 invoices, and we got to get them away from some system real fast, yeah? So what we do is we build this workflow, it does some stuff, and what we tend to think that works for our scaling is that you do a loop over items and you execute a separate workflow, because then n8n tends to choke up less. And here you can see what the execute workflow looks like. And so this works for 80K plus docs, and that's great. So for if anyone would be wondering, like, hey, can you do semi-larger scale stuff? Yes, you can. And so another use case was a similar job, but then with 500,000. And this was actually done from like thinking about how to do this by Harm a couple of weeks ago, and it was done in 1.5 days, I think, like including time to figure this stuff out. And what we did is we created a MySQL database where we registered which IDs were already processed, so which invoices were already processed, because n8n would from time to time crash, or we would get some API rate limit error or whatever. But in the end, we managed to transfer all the 500,000 invoices. And then when we got into conversation with Bart later on, he said, you're going to love this new feature because we have a new deduplicate node that can get IDs from previous executions. And my question to Bart is, does that also work when the execution fails? Because that is the situation where you need the ideas. And if he only does it for successful executions, then it doesn't solve the problem that this workflow does solve. So I don't know if it makes sense the way I explained it right now, but we register in the database which records we have processed. And so if all hell breaks loose and n8n becomes unresponsive, which I don't blame n8n on, but it can happen, then we know, okay, so these records we can skip now. Yeah, so that's the basic how to, and there are all sorts of different settings, and you can have multiple workers and everything, but if you just want to do it simple, it's possible.
Yeah, I don't have the answer right now, but I can get it for you. So
Great.
I'll do that. An
Okay.
alternative solution for this could be to set up a queue like RabbitMQ and just push all your jobs in there, and then you can like easily process it from different workers as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not acting like we know everything about it. I'm just showing how we did it, and it was like this, and the client was happy, so we're happy.
But I think your point of using sub-workflows is essential here because those free up the memory after they run
Yep.
a batch. That really allows you to run larger scales. Yeah.
Okay, and one comment from my side with this is that it would be great if it would be possible in the future to to make it more easy to discover rate limits on both API endpoints, because then you can sort of calculate a way, like loop over how many items and wait for how long and blah, blah, blah. And it would also be great to have some sort of way to discover what of my current n8n instance, whether it's a self-hosted or cloud-hosted, because we use mostly cloud instances, be great to get some sort of intel on what is keeping us up. Why is it CPU, mem, what is it? Yeah, okay. So I'll just quickly click through this one because I have 15 seconds left. But, and so we're not going to discuss this in detail, but I have this project. I've been longing to migrate to n8n, this bit here. Yeah? So it's a Flutterflow-based mobile application that has chat functionality inside of it. And the chat is 100% client to AI. And this AI is an agent-based model on LangChain that I've started building when LangChain was first released. So probably really old concepts that are now outdated, but yeah. And then this agent searches in a vectorized database. It's too bad that the AI specialist leaves to get pizza. But it will return documents with a relevancy score. So how relevant is this document to the question asked by the client? And if the relevancy score of the documents returned is not high enough, we are afraid that the AI is going to come up with a BS answer. So we exit the LangChain agent. We say, okay, stop right now. Don't do your thing anymore. Now you're going to just return, you're going to respond like you're going to get a human answer within, I don't know, 24 hours. And that's it. And we call a Telegram bot, and we ask an actual human, like, okay, so this is the suggested AI answer that is generated, and you have this button to either approve or disapprove, and if you disapprove, you need to input your manual answer. And when you respond via Telegram, it gets sent back to the Flutterflow application. So I thought that was pretty cool, but I want this in n8n because I don't want to have this one thing in Python running, but I can't get the filter on relevancy score. So please, if you are done with your presentation, bother me with your input. Yeah.
Let's do it.
So that'd be it. Thank you.